Hi friends, in this session we will continue the topic which we have been started in last lecture, that is male reproductive system. So from today we will start the another subtopic, that is ejaculatory duct, which is also another part of male reproductive system. Each ductus deferens at ampulla joins the duct from adjacent seminal vesicle, which is one of the accessory organ of reproductive system, to form a short ejaculatory duct. Each ejaculatory duct passes through the prostate gland and empties into the urethra. Now here we can see this is the urethra, and this is the prostate, and this is the ductus deferens. After that it will go and pass into the urethra. There are three types of urethra: prostatic urethra, bulbourethral urethra, and the penile urethra. After that the passage of semen will pass from this penis. Now urethra. Urethra extends from the urinary bladder to the external urethral orifice at the tip of the penis. It is a passageway for sperm and fluid from the reproductive system. So whatever the sperms will produce, so that will pass through this urethra. Not only that, it also carries the urine from the urinary system. It divides into three regions: the prostatic urethra, the membranous urethra, and the penile urethra. There are three types of urethra. This penile urethra also called as spongy urethra or cavernous urethra, because cavernous muscles are there. Accessory glands. These are the seminal vesicles, prostate glands, and the bulbourethral glands. This bulbourethral gland also called as Cowper's gland. These glands secrete fluid that enter in urethra, and that secrete that whatever secretion is there from these all three glands, that secretion is nothing but the semen. Seminal vesicles. This is one of the largest gland of the accessory glands, which produces the part of semen. The glands posterior to the urinary bladder, each has a short duct that joins with the ductus deferens at the ampulla to form a ejaculatory duct, which then empties into the urethra. The fluid is viscous and contains fructose, and as we know, the fructose is responsible for energy. And if you will see this gland's size, it is about 5 cm in length. As the fructose is used for the ATP production by the sperms, and the prostaglandin contribute to the sperm motility and viability, and the seminal vesicle is able to produce about 60% of total volume of semen. And another thing regarding seminal vesicle, it is having the alkaline pH. Why alkaline pH? Because whatever the environment is there, which is of the penis itself, means urethra, male urethra itself, and also the female reproductive organ, both are having the acidic pH. So for counterbalance that, for neutralizing that pH, so our semen must have the basic or alkaline pH. So that is a major reason behind this. Now after this, next is prostate gland. It is a firm, dense structure that is the size about walnut, means its size is near about 3 to 4 centimeter, means 4 centimeter in width and 3 centimeter from top to bottom. It is encircles the urethra as it leaves the urinary bladder. The numerous short ducts from the prostate gland empty into the prostatic urethra. The secretions of the prostatic prostate are thin, milky colored. Milky colored is there, and it is somewhat viscous and alkaline in nature. They functions to enhance the motility of the sperms, and it is inferior to the urinary bladder and surround the prostatic urethra, and it extends or expand after the age of 30, and it further enlarge after the age of 45. The prostate glands secretes the several substances. For example, first substance is citric acid. Citric acid in prostatic fluid is used by the sperm for ATP production via Krebs cycle. Second element which is secreted by the prostate gland is it secretes the several proteolytic enzymes such as prostate specific antigen, pepsinogen, lysozyme, amylase, hyaluronidase, and eventually break down the clotting proteins from the seminal vesicles. And the third element which secreted by this prostate is the functions of acidic phosphate secreted by the prostate is unknown. And the seminoplasmin in prostatic fluid is the antibiotic that can destroy the bacteria. And this prostate contain it make about 25% of volume of semen. Now next is bulbourethral gland. It is small, about size of pea, means it is having size 2.5 to 5 millimeter in size. It is very small in size and located near the base of penis. At short duct from each enter the proximal end of penile urethra. In response to the sexual stimulation, the bulbourethral gland secretes an alkaline mucus-like fluid, and it is also called as Cowper's gland, COWPER, Cowper's gland. Some males release a drop or two of this mucus upon sexual arousal and erection. The fluid does not contain the sperm cells. Now, seminal fluid or semen. A slightly alkaline mixture of sperm cells and secretions from the accessory glands. Secretions from seminal vesicle make up about 60% of volume of semen, and most of the remainder coming from the prostate gland. The sperm and the secretions from the bulbourethral gland contribute only a small volume. The volume of semen in the single ejaculation may varies from person to person, and also may varies depends on the condition. It varies from 1.5 ml to 6 ml. There are between 50 to 150 millions per millimeter of semen. So this is the normal limit. It is from 50 to 150 millions of sperms are available per ml of the semen. Sperms count below 10 to 20 millions per millimeter is usually called as infertile person, means that person not able to fertile. Whereas if you see the pH of this, it is about 7.2 to 7.7, means it is almost alkaline pH due to the seminal vesicle fluid. And when the number of this semen sperms falls below 20, it is called as infertile, but we can increase that number by having various drugs. On ejaculation, liquid semen coagulates within 5 minutes due to the presence of clotting proteins from the seminal vesicles. The functional role of semen coagulation is unknown, but the protein involved are different from those that cause blood coagulation. After about 10 to 20 minutes, semen liquefies reliquefies because prostate specific antigen and other proteolytic enzymes produced by the prostate break down to the clot. Penis. Now it is the urethra part. It is another part of urethra. Is the cylindrical pedant organ located anterior to the scrotum and functions to transfer sperm to the vagina. So this penis is doing the main function of transfer of sperm from the male reproductive organ to the female reproductive organ. It makes the passageway for sperm. It consists of 3 columns of erectile tissue that are wrapped in connective tissue and covered with skin. The 2 dorsal columns are called as corpora cavernosa. So corpora cavernosa muscles are there. They are having 2 elongated lines, and the single middle ventral column surrounded the urethra and is called as corpus spongium. There are 3 parts: a root, body, which is also called as shaft, and the glans penis. The root of the penis attaches to the pubic arch. The body of the body is visible and pendant portion. The corpus spongium expands at the distal end to form the glans penis. The urethra, which extend throughout the length of the corpus spongium, opens through the external urethral orifice at the tip of the glans penis. A loose fold skin called prebus or foreskin covers the glans penis. Now here we can see this is the corpora cavernosa, and this is called spongy urethra, and this is corpus spongium, and this part is called as glans penis, and this is the external orifice through which sperm will come outside. Erection. It involves the increase in length, width and firmness. It changes the blood supply, arterioles dilate and veins constrict. So whenever the erection occurs, at that time the penis is having high blood supply, and there is the relaxation of the penile muscle and also relaxation of the blood vessels, due to which the blood vessels are filled with the blood. The spongy erectile tissue filled with the blood, and erectile dysfunction also known as impotence. And this erection, how erection occurs? Erection occurs due to one element, due to one hormone. It is called as nitric oxide. This nitric oxide is responsible for erection. How it is responsible? This nitric oxide is responsible for activation of cyclic GMP, and the cyclic GMP can be activated due to the increase into the guanylyl cyclase, and the secondary messenger, that is cyclic GMP, is responsible for relaxation. It is responsible for relaxation, and due to which the relaxation into our vascular muscle occurs, means blood vessels will be completely relaxed, and due to which only it is filled with the blood. So that process is responsible for erection into the males. So when there is lack of nitric oxide or decreased level of nitric oxide, it results into the impotency, and that's why some people are taking the medicine to increase the level of nitric oxide temporarily. For example, Viagra, sildenafil containing tablets. So what they are doing? They are releasing the nitric oxide, and due to which the temporary erection will occur. Hormones. Follicle stimulating hormone, which stimulate the spermatogenesis. So FSH is the hormone which is responsible for increase the process of sperm production. It is called spermatogenesis. Interstitial cell stimulating hormones ICSH stimulate the production of testosterone. So it is nothing but the LH, luteinizing hormone. It is also responsible for production of testosterone. Testosterone stimulates the development of male secondary sex characters and spermatogenesis. Now here we will discuss how the testosterone level is going to be incline or decline due to the age. So from the childhood it will start to increase and it will high in case of the age 20 to 30. So in this age it is high. After it will slightly decline by the age progresses, as the age increases. In 40 decline, 50 decline, and at the 70 it is almost half portion. Now the next process is spermatogenesis. It is an important process in male reproductive organ, and this process is required for the sperm production. Without this, the sperm production is very difficult. The sperms are produced within the seminiferous tubules. As you know, in each lobule almost 250 lobules are there. In the testes, in the one part, in one segment 250 lobules are there, and each lobule contains 3 to 4 seminiferous tubules. Interspread within the tubules are large cells, which are the subtentacular cells. They are also called as Sertoli cells, which support and nourish the other cells. So these Sertoli cells are having important role to support and to do the nourishment, and which is having great role for sperm production. Now we will discuss this spermatogenesis, how it occurs. Early in the embryonic development, primordial germ cells enter the testes and differentiate into the spermatogonia. The spermatogonia are diploid cells, and each within 46 chromosomes, means 23 pairs located around the periphery of the seminiferous tubules. At puberty, hormones stimulate these cells to begin dividing by mitosis. So at puberty the mitosis will occur, means they will start to divide the cells, means there is the production of cell division will start here. Some remain at periphery as spermatogonia. Other becomes primary spermatocytes, means the spermatogonia which want to divide, which want to produce the second spermatogenesis, which want to do the spermatogenesis, they will start to divide. Because they are produced by the mitosis, primary spermatocytes like spermatogonia are diploid and have 46 chromosomes. So they are diploid in nature and they are having 46 chromosomes, but they are also ready for further dividations. Now each primary spermatocytes goes through the first meiotic division, meiosis 1. Now here in case of the reproductive cell division, the two types of two times the meiosis occurs, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So in meiosis 1, to produce two secondary spermatocytes, so here the two secondary spermatocytes will produce, and each will carries 23 chromosomes. Just prior to the division, the genetic material is replicated and they are producing the haploid cells, and each cell containing 23 chromosomes, means earlier it was 46 chromosomes, but they have divided into two cells and each will carry the 23 chromosomes. They are the haploid cells. Now during meiosis 1, one chromosome goes to each secondary spermatocytes. In the second meiotic division, in meiosis 2, now here the meiosis 2 will occur. Each secondary spermatocytes divide to produce two spermatids. Now earlier it have divided into two spermatocytes here, and two haploid cells has been developed. Now in meiosis second, each secondary spermatocytes will again redivide to produce two spermatids, means total 4 spermatid cells will develop. So there are no replication of genetic material in this division, because already the replication here already occurs. But the single stranded chromatids goes to each cell. As a result, the two meiotic divisions, each primary spermatocytes produces 4 spermatids. So final is 4 spermatid cells are going to be produced. Now these spermatids are ready for development into the sperms. Now each spermatid has 23 chromosomes, means they are haploid in nature. Earlier they were diploid in nature, means they was having 46 chromosomes. Now they are having 23 chromosomes, one from each pair in the original primary spermatocytes. Now here you can see this is the spermatogonium. Now this spermatogonium will go under the sexual reproduction. Now for that it will go for the first step, it is called meiosis 1. Now this spermatocyte is able to produce the secondary spermatocytes, means it will produce the 2 cells. So both are having 23 chromosomes. These are called secondary spermatocytes. And again these spermatocytes go under the secondary sexual division, it is called meiosis 2. It is a secondary cell division, and they are able to produce again 2 haploid cells. So which is having 23 chromosome, and these are called as spermatids. These spermatids are able to produce the sperm cell. Here you can see, so they will develop into the sperms. So from this one to production of normal healthy sperm, it requires almost 70 days. 60 to 70 days are required to development of complete mature sperm. So this is the process called spermatogenesis. From the spermatogonia, which is diploid in nature, and this is haploid in nature. N means haploid, and 2N means diploid in nature. So in this fashion they are produced. The final step in the development, the spermatids form from spermatogenesis, become mature spermatozoa or sperm. The mature sperm has the head, midpiece and tail. The head, also called the nuclear region, and it contains the 23 chromosomes surrounded by the nuclear membrane. The tip of the head is covered by the acrosome. It is a cap-like vesicle filled with the enzymes that help the sperm to penetrate a secondary oocyte to bring about the fertilization, and it fuse with that secondary oocytes from female. The midpiece, it is a metabolic region, contains mitochondria that provides adenosine triphosphate, means energy, to the sperm. And the tail region, the tail locomotor region, use the typical flagellum for locomotion. Actually the tail of sperm is also subdivided into 4 parts, that is neck, middle piece, principal piece and the end piece. The neck is constricted regions just behind the head of the contains centrioles. The centriole form the microtubules that comprise the remainder of tail. The middle piece contains the mitochondria arranged in the spiral, which provide an energy for locomotion of sperm to the site of fertilization for sperm metabolism. And the principal piece is the longest portion of the tail, and the end piece is the terminal tapering portion of the tail. So in this fashion the sperm, the mature sperm has been developed. Now here you can see the structure of sperm, and here the head part is here, also called acrosome. This is the middle part, middle secretion which contains mitochondria, and here inside the genetic material is there. So this genetic material are inserting into the ovum or into the secondary oocyte of female, and due to which the fertilization occurs. And this is the portion which the uh, head portion of this sperm is responsible for fusion to the secondary oocyte, to the egg, and after fusion they will get entered into that ovum, and they will enter this nucleus, means DNA, into the female gametes. This is the portion, and this is the tail portion. It is also called as flagella, which is responsible for movements, locomotion. Now again we will see how the spermatogenesis occurs. From the testes they will produce the spermatogonium, and after that the primary spermatocytes will produce, which is having 46 chromosomes, and they are able to produce the two secondary spermatids. They are having 23 chromosomes here, which is haploid in nature. And after the meiosis 2, again they will produce the two haploid chromatids, and after the production of 4 haploid chromatids they are able to produce the sperm. Spermatogenesis will occur. So in this fashion each sperm will carries 23 chromosomes, and 23 from male and 23 from female, and in this fashion they will produce the 46 chromosome to produce a new offspring. The sperms are released into the lumen of the seminiferous tubule and leave the testes. Then they enter the epididymis, where they undergo their final maturation. That's why I have also discussed this matter, that in epididymis they are having the final maturation. Maturation occurs in epididymis. So as it stay into the epididymis for longer period, it will mature more and become the capable of fertilizing a female gamete. If we are releasing unmature or unmotile sperm into the ejaculation, so it is not responsible for fertilization because it is not completely mature. A mature sperm can have the ability to reach out that place of secondary oocyte, which is very difficult target, very difficult task to reach out that place and to penetrate the ovum. The sperm production begins at the puberty and continues throughout the life of the male. The entire process beginning with the primary spermatocytes, it takes about 74 days. So in males, from the puberty up to his death, the male can produce the sperms and he is able to develop a new offspring, whereas in case of female, after the menopause the production of secondary oocyte is going to be stopped. After ejaculation, the sperm can live for about 48 hours in the female reproductive organ. If the sperm is firm and motile, so it can stay there. Otherwise, the female genita, female reproductive organ, is able to kill millions of sperms into the tract due to their hostile environment. Now here, this is the figure how the acrosome of sperm can fuse with the layer of secondary oocyte. It will fuse there, and after that it will penetrate that, and it will enter into the secondary oocyte, and after that it will do the fertilization. So in this fashion, today we have discussed the remaining part of male reproductive system. So thank you very much for watching my video. Bye.